Hi everybody, it's Leela from Miss Kiss Creations. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you how I created this ice cream topper on this tumbler. Now, like always, I will have all my materials in my description below. And if you want to learn how to create an ice cream tumbler, I will have that linked in my description below as well. And with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started on this tumbler topper.
Before I start with this topper, I want to go over the materials used to create this topper. If you do want to fast forward through this part, you can, because all of my materials will be listed in my description below, along with some links and coupon codes. The first thing you're going to be obviously needing is going to be a lid. I am using a 20-ounce lid from Makerflow Crafts. As you see, this lid is an open and close lid. So what I do is I just pop out that piece. All you do is you squeeze on the inside and it pops right out. So now it's just one lid. I just throw this away. I don't use this because I'm going to be putting the ice cream on top of here. I know you can use a removable topper or the magnetic toppers. I'm not going to be doing that in this video. I know that's a possibility. So if you do yours that way, just do this entire process the same, except for putting it on your removable magnetic topper. Now that I have the lid, I am going to move on to the spackle. So this is what you use to get the ice cream. So this is basically the ice cream right here. Make sure you are using the lightweight spackle. I am using the Red Devil brand. I found this on Amazon. I will have this link posted in my description below. I know the most popular one, I think it's called Fast and Final. So I'll also have that linked in my description below as well, as long as it is lightweight. The reason why you need the lightweight spackle is just because it's easier to work with. I'll be using some ice cream scoops, and the ice cream scoops that I have are real ice cream scoops, and I am using the ones with the handles. I feel that it gives more of a realistic look for the ice cream, so that's why I'm using these. You can obviously find these at any local store, Walmart, Target, or even Amazon. I'm going to be using acrylic paint. I'm going to be using white for my vanilla ice cream, and then I think I'm going to have some strawberry ice cream with my vanilla as well. So I'm going to be using these colors. Obviously, if you want to add some chocolate ice cream, then you'll be using brown as well. I'm going to be using one of my bowls I have on hand. This is my craft bowl, so I only use this bowl for crafting and specifically just for the spackle. It is glass, so I probably need a plastic one just in case I break it, but that's okay. To stir my spackle, I just use a big wooden popsicle stick, and I have reused this like 3 or 4 times. So all I do is I just let it dry out. I wash it when I'm finished, let it dry out, and then I just reuse it. I know a lot of people, they have those mini drywall spatulas. It's kind of flat. I'll try to find one of those on Amazon and link those in the description below. It is metal, it's a little thicker, so it's probably easier to use one of those drywall spatulas than just this jumbo popsicle stick. To top my ice cream, I'm going to be using Glitter Heart Co.'s Unicorn Poop, and then I'll be using my brown acrylic paint for the chocolate drizzle. I do have a coupon code in my description below for Glitter Heart Co. for the Unicorn Poop. I'm going to first put on my gloves, and then I'm going to be opening my spackle. I'm going to place my spackle inside of my container here, and I just place as much as I think I need. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to be doing the vanilla one first. You can use 2 separate containers, but I'm just gonna do each color differently. So I'm going to be doing the vanilla one, scooping it on the lid, and then I'm going to add the acrylic paint and then making the other one strawberry. Okay, so I moved the camera a little closer for y'all to see more. So I'm just putting as much as I think I need, because I'm going to be doing probably 2 or 3 scoops, just depends. I don't like to really overload it. I know a lot of people like it really stacked very high, but I don't really like that. So just do whichever way you want it to be made. This is your tumbler. What I do next is I take my acrylic paint and I just take a small popsicle stick and I just add some acrylic paint into that spackle, and it's just a very small amount. Once I've added my acrylic paint to the spackle, I'm now going to take my bigger wooden popsicle stick and just stir that spackle and the acrylic paint. You're going to notice the spackle turns into like a whipped cream kind of. it goes from like kind of like a fake snow to a whipped cream feeling. So that's why I like to add that acrylic paint, and it also gives it a nice white pop. As for the spackle, you want to make sure that you close this spackle all the way. So really take your time in closing this lid, because if you do not close this spackle, then it's going to dry out and you're going to have to buy more. Now that my lid's closed, I'm going to continue to stir this spackle in acrylic paint. It's a lot easier to see whenever your spackle is completely stirred, whenever you add obviously a different color than white. So I'll show you whenever I add that pink color for the strawberry ice cream. But you just stir it for about a minute just to make sure you have that acrylic paint mixed through the spackle. And then what I do now is I'm kind of going to clump up that spackle towards one side of the bowl, because I'm going to take my ice cream scoop and I'm going to be collecting a scoop of basically ice cream. So what I do is you just scoop it and I pack it on the side. So I'm kind of pushing it on the side because you want to make sure you have a nice scoop. And the great thing about this, guys, is that if your scoop isn't as round as you want it to be, you can just wipe it right off that lid and just redo this part. So I'm really making it packed full in there. You can see that there's little to no space in here, so I think I have it down. If you want, you can take a popsicle stick and kind of pack it down like so, and then that really makes that circle create on that or inside of that spoon. So I'm going to put my spackle aside, and now I have my lid. So what I'm going to be doing is, what I like to do first is I'm placing the spackle just left to right. So that's all I basically do. I'm avoiding this straw hole. So what you can do, there's a couple options. I have this epoxy stirring stick that I've had for years. So this basically is like a straw. So what you can do is you can take your tumbler out. Let's just say this is my tumbler, it's an old tumbler, and you can put your straw, so you can use just one straw that you have on hand and use this straw all the time, so you can reuse it, or you can take something else similar to a straw. So I have this hand here, and this is basically the same as a straw. So you can place your spackle on your lid while it's on your tumbler to have you kind of get the look of it, or if it's easier for you, you can just take your lid off and then you can just do it on your silicone mat. I'm going to be placing my ice cream on the lid on the tumbler only because I think that's how most people would want to see it. So that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to take my ice cream. This is just like, or I'm sorry, I'm going to take my spackle, and it's just like ice cream. I'm just going to place it and push that button, and I have to push that button like 3 or 4 times to get that ice cream out. And you can see that's the ice cream right there, and it just lays flat like so. Remember what I told y'all? If y'all don't like it, watch this. You just put it right back into that container and then redo it. So what I would do is I would just take a baby wipe or a wet paper towel and just wipe off that tumbler lid real quick, like so, and then just re-scoop it. Now clearly that was a good scoop, but I just wanted to show y'all how easy it was to take off that spackle from that lid. So let me do that one more time. I'm going to put that ice cream or spackle back into that scooper, make sure it's nice and packed, take my lid, and then place that ice cream right on the lid. And remember I told y'all have to kind of pull that trigger 3 or 4 times to make that spackle come right off. And you can see that ice cream, it looks real. It is so cute. All you do is place this to the side, and then if you need more spackle like I do, just add more spackle, a little bit more acrylic paint, and then you can make your mixture again and then add another ice cream scoop. Have my acrylic paint, just put a little bit in there, and then take that acrylic paint and stir it with the spackle. I'm going to be taking my smaller ice cream scooper and seeing how I can create maybe a smaller ice cream ball. I've never used this small one before, so we're gonna see if this looks cute with the 2 different size ice cream balls on top of the lid. So I'm just getting the excess off of this scooper, patting that spackle inside of that lid, placing my spackle to the side, and then placing another scoop of ice cream on my tumbler. So I'm going to be doing the same. I'm kind of doing it at an angle now. And you can see the 2 scoops of ice cream. I think I've had enough vanilla ice cream on the topper, so I'm now going to be adding my pink. So I am using Pink Parfait from Apple Barrel. It does not matter which finish that you use for these acrylic paints. I just am using, I think I'm using the matte. So this is the matte finish. And I'm going to be adding just a drop of acrylic paint into that mixture. You can see how little I used. I'd rather add too little than too much because I can always add more acrylic paint. So now you can see how it looks whenever you add that color in there. Then stir it, and you can see the colors kind of separating. You're going to keep stirring it just like as you would like epoxy and acrylic paint. You're going to stir it until you see that one color. You can make your strawberry ice cream a little lighter, or you can make it a little darker. There's plenty of shades of pink. I know strawberry ice cream comes in all different shades of pink, so don't overthink which paint color you use because it's going to look like strawberry ice cream no matter which shade of pink. Before I scoop my strawberry spackle out of my bowl, I'm going to take a baby wipe and just wipe out that other spackle, only because it's going to show up whenever I add it to the tumbler. So you're going to see that white on top of the strawberry. I'm going to try to use my bigger ice cream scoop, so we'll see if I have enough ice cream in here or spackle in here to add it. So I'm going to be adding it right here just to fill that kind of void, and I'm going to be smushing it towards just to make it look like it's real ice cream. So I don't want it to look like it's like placed there. I want to make it look like it's smushed ice cream, that it's all smushed together. So I'm going to be adding pressure towards the other 2 ice cream balls that's on top of the lid. Let's scoop up this strawberry ice cream. So again, I'm pressing it on. I'm trying to pack it, and I can kind of make it flat so I can work with it easier and make sure it's packed in there. Looks like I have enough, so that's good. Put my spackle to the side and then add that last ice cream on that tumbler. So I'm going to slant it again, and I'm going to I'm trying to do this and still get it in the camera, and push that trigger down. Remember, you have to push that 3 or 4 times. And then once you have it down, it looks like it is going to be placed nicely. You can see that back one. You can't even see it on the front, the smaller one, which is okay. It kind of gives it a kind of a spot for that strawberry one to sit. Make sure while you're doing this, you're kind of having like a paper towel, preferably wet paper towel nearby, and you're getting that side kind of clean with that paper towel while that spackle is still wet. So you want to do that before the spackle starts air drying, because once you have it air dry, it just takes a little more to clean off that spackle. So I like to just clean up that rim. I go around the rim of that lid about 3 or 4 times as I'm placing that spackle on the topper, just to make sure it looks nice and clean. And if you do notice, this tumbler, this is just an old tumbler I made a couple years ago. So if you have one of these on hand, if you want to create your lid on an old tumbler, I would advise that rather than creating it on your either already made tumbler that it's going to go on, or the tumbler that you are going to be creating for this. Only because there is a lot of spackle on this tumbler. If you can see, the spackle creates a mess, and I'm also very messy on top of it. But it does get messy. So if I mess up this old tumbler, then that's all right, because I'm not worried about it. This is just kind of a tabletop, if you will. So again, my spackle is on my tumbler. You can see it looks like ice cream, and we are not finished yet. Remember, make sure that your lid is completely closed on your spackle. And now that I have my ice cream on my topper, we're going to be adding that chocolate drizzle, and then we're going to be adding the sprinkles, aka unicorn poop, to the top. For the chocolate drizzle, like I said earlier, I use my burnt umber, or you can use any other brown acrylic paint brand or shade. And I just put some of that inside of one of my 1 ounce mixing cups. And then I take some water and I water it down. You can see I add only a couple drops to that acrylic paint because all I want is just the acrylic paint to be watered down. So if it's too runny, it's going to be kind of transparent. And if it's not runny enough, you're not going to have it drip whenever you hold your popsicle stick in the air. If anybody has ever done a dirty pour with acrylic paint, this is very similar. So if you remember how you do that, this is the same way of how you're going to be doing this. If you would like to use paint thinner, go ahead and use paint thinner. I just don't have any on hand, so I always use my water. And there I go making my mess. So I'm going to be mixing this, and whenever it's completely mixed, I'm going to add the chocolate. All right, so you can see it is a nice drip there. That is dripping down. That's what I want to see. Now, while the ice cream is still wet, I do this, or while it's still fresh and not cured or air dried, I do this step. So I haven't waited any time between placing the ice cream on the top of my tumbler and this moment now. All I do is I take my popsicle stick and I drizzle it starting from the top, and I let it go down on the ice cream. So again, let me stand up to better show y'all. I just take the top here and I let it drizzle down. And I kind of start from one side. So now that's my starting point of where that ice cream goes. Or I'm sorry, where the chocolate melt goes. Right there. So I kind of like baby it down, I should say. So you see how I'm dipping my chocolate or my acrylic paint water down and the cup each time, and then I just kind of create that drizzle. I know a lot of people, or I assume a lot of people, they do this with epoxy. If you want to do that, you can. So if you want to epoxy it and then add that epoxy with acrylic paint, you can do it that way. I just thought I'd do it this way just to get all the toppings done in one shot, so I don't have to go back and do this later. So you can add this anywhere on that tumbler. Just let that paint kind of drip down, do its thing, and then you can move around the topper, and then just place that anywhere you like. You could see I just threw that one on there. I just threw that chocolate piece on there and it just did its thing. Just like as it would if it was real chocolate syrup. And I create kind of like, if you see on top here, I'm creating like where it started from. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. That's just what I like to do. So make this your own. If you don't like a certain way that I do this, then that's why I try to give y'all other options. Like what I said, people do it with epoxy. So if you want to do it that way, or if that's how you're used to doing like chocolate drizzle, then do it that way. So I want to make sure that this chocolate drizzle is going all the way to the bottom of my ice cream. So I just kind of let it follow all the way down. And if it does go all the way down on my cup, that's okay, because I'm just using an old cup. And I just have to finish this last drizzle here. And if you see I got some acrylic paint right here, that's fine. We're going to clean that up later. Now that I have my chocolate drizzle on my tumbler, I'm going to be taking my unicorn poop or these sprinkles, and I'm just going to be adding them to the tumbler. So this is probably the easiest part because they're sprinkles, so you can add them anywhere. So what I start doing is I just pinch it like salt, and then I add it around the ice cream or the spackle like I would sprinkles. And then if they stick, they stick. If they don't, they don't. And I'll go ahead and fix those here in a second. But I start doing it this way to make it a little easier for me. And make sure you're putting some catch paper down or like a silicone mat like I am, because whenever these things fall off the ice cream toppers, I make sure and I pick these things up because I know how expensive these things are. So I like to keep them just in case. So I have some sprinkles here for now. What I like to do now is take either my fingers, tweezers, anything. I have my backwards tweezers, my weeding tool, and I pick up the sprinkles. And now this is when I'm going to be placing them into the ice cream, and I'm gonna push down. This is going to allow these sprinkles to stick to that spackle so they don't fall off. So I kind of did that random effect first, and then once the randomness was over, that's when I take the backwards tweezers and just push them down into the ice cream. And even the ones that just kind of laid on top, I take my finger or more tweezers or anything I have on hand, and I kind of push those little sprinkles down into that spackle as well, just so whenever we go to seal this in, these aren't going to be sticking up as much, and they're going to stay on the ice cream, and it's going to allow just the sprinkles to stick on them longer. So I'm going to be going around the tumbler and placing these sprinkles one by one, and then I'll return. I'm back, and I added all of my sprinkles on top of my tumbler. I went ahead and I took some more and I put it inside of on this spot and this spot, because in reality, whenever y'all add, or I know whenever I add sprinkles to my ice cream, I always stick it in one spot and then it kind of drizzles down. So that's why I have some inside of these little crevices, just to make it look more realistic. And like I told y'all, I went around and I kind of patted them down onto the spackle. So make sure you have them nice and snug against that spackle without messing up that design and pushing inside of that spackle. So look how cute this looks, guys. I will say, y'all, if I had fake cherries on hand, I would want to put the cherry right here to really accent this topper. I think it would look really cute with even fake strawberries or a fake cherry sticking out of that ice cream to really tie in that look. Maybe I'll find some on Amazon, and if I do find some on Amazon, I'll link it in my description below for y'all. For my next step of this topper, this is going to be probably the worst part of the entire topper, because I don't have a lot of patience, and I know a lot of Tumbler creators and crafters, they don't have a lot of patience either when it comes to waiting. So what I have to do now is I have to wait at least 3 days for this spackle to be dried. I am actually going to be waiting 5 days, because like y'all know, I like to wait longer than not long enough, because if I don't wait long enough and it messes up this topper, I'm going to have wasted all of this money. So I am going to wait 5 days before I move on to the next step. The next step to this topper is going to be applying epoxy to the topper. As y'all know, spackle, if it comes in contact with water for a long period of time, it's going to start decaying and kind of breaking down. The reason why we're waiting 5 days to epoxy this topper is because if I add the wet epoxy on this topper before the spackle is completely dried inside and out, it's going to start breaking down that spackle, and it's going to turn into just basically melted snow or melted ice cream. So that's why we have to wait. So I know even if you come back after a day and your spackle is completely dry, it still has to be dry on the inside. So that's the biggest problem with these. I wouldn't say problem, but that's probably the biggest headache, is that it takes so long to dry, and I just want this topper to be completely finished by now. So I'm going to patiently wait, but not patiently wait, for this ice cream topper to dry, completely air dry, completely air cure, and then I'll come back and I'll show y'all how I epoxy this top. So I'll see y'all in about 5 days. Welcome back, everybody. I'm back here with my topper, and you can see, well, at least I can see, that it is completely cured. It's been about 5 days since I have created this topper. So now we are going to clean up the inside like how I explained to y'all earlier, and then I'm going to epoxy over this. I'm going to be using a Q-tip and 100% acetone to remove that paint inside of the lid. Like I said, if you guys do want to use your removable toppers, you can use that so you can avoid this step. All I do is place some acetone inside of the lid, and then I just remove the acetone from inside the lid like so. So it is very simple, and since it is acrylic paint and of course it's water-based, it's going to come right up. And once I have it cleaned up, I'm going to take a damp washcloth or a damp paper towel and just dampen that inside, and then take a dry paper towel and just pat it dry. And the inside is all cleaned up. For my next step of this topper, and my final step is going to be adding epoxy. I mixed about 6 milliliters of epoxy into this cup. So it's 3 milliliters part A and 3 milliliters part B, totaling 6 milliliters of epoxy. If you don't want to mix such a small amount, you can always epoxy some tumblers and then use your leftover for your toppers. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to just dip my finger, my gloved finger, inside of my epoxy cup and then just pat around the topper just to make sure I'm getting a full cover topper. And then I'm going to be using a paintbrush just to get underneath the areas, all little nooks and crannies, just to have a fully sealed topper. And remember, the reason why I am sealing this topper with epoxy is because this is spackle, and if you do put water on this, it is going to dissolve once it hits water. So like I said, I'm taking my gloved finger and I'm just going around the topper, and all I'm doing is painting it on. So I'm not going to put a lot on here because I don't want the epoxy to run down. I am going to be placing this topper on the silicone mat when I'm finished, just in case that epoxy does run down. If it air cures or air dries on the silicone mat, as you should know, epoxy does not stick to silicone. So once it's completely cured, if it does stick to silicone, I could just peel it right up instead of putting it on my desk, where if it does air cure on my desk, it gets stuck to the desk and then we have a bigger issue. So I'm just spreading this on as you see in the camera. I'm not starting in any way, but I'm just dabbing my finger on. I like to compare this with the amount of epoxy you put on for your glitter. So if you've ever epoxied your tumbler, or if you've ever glittered your tumbler using the epoxy method, you want that very thin coat of epoxy. So like I explained in my previous videos, you want enough epoxy to act as an adhesive, which means you want a very small amount, very thin amount of epoxy on that topper. And I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but with this epoxy on here, it really gives this topper some life. I like how it sparkles, and it really kind of brings this topper to life, and it makes it look even more real. Because if you remember that acrylic paint or chocolate drizzle, it was very dull before, but that epoxy really shines it up and creates kind of that realistic look. So I'm going to fast forward through this part until I reach the nooks and crannies, so I will see y'all soon. Now that I have the topper mostly epoxied, I'm now going to take my paintbrush, dip my paintbrush into the epoxy, and really get into that topper. So I'm going to be getting into the nooks and crannies, meaning the really tiny spots that my fingers couldn't get to. So underneath, right there where the ice cream meets the lid, those tiny areas. The paintbrush size that I'm using is a size 10, but you can use any size. If you have one bigger or smaller, that is okay. Like I said, this is a very important step. You want to make sure you get every part of this ice cream top epoxied and sealed, because you don't want this tumbler topper falling apart on you. And if you want, you can take your paintbrush and kind of use that to spread out more of the epoxy that you've already added. If you found yourself adding a little too much, you can do that as well. Where these 3 ice cream scoops meets is a very important area, because that's a very small area that I couldn't get with my finger. So make sure that you're adding your paintbrush there and you're just adding that epoxy right where they meet. Just like the previous step, I'm going to fast forward through this part and I'll see y'all soon. My topper is completely epoxied. Now, while my epoxy is still wet, I'm going to take a baby wipe, and if there's any areas of the lid that I may have kind of went heavy-handed on or put some epoxy on, I'm just going to take that baby wipe and clean up that epoxy now while it's still wet. Only because it's very easy to clean up epoxy while it's still wet than to do it while it's cured. And here is the topper completely epoxied. You can see that nice shine. And like I said to y'all earlier, I really wish I had my cherries. Fun fact, I actually did find some cherries on Amazon while recording this video. I will link them in my description below, and they actually arrive in a couple days. So I cannot wait to get those. And I also ordered more goodies that I'll show y'all in future videos. So now that my topper is completely cured, I am going to wash off this paintbrush. I'm hoping this epoxy will come off once it's drenched in water for like 24 hours. And now I'm going to have my topper sit and cure on my silicone mat. I'm going to allow it to cure just like as it were a tumbler. I'm going to allow it to cure for at least 24 hours to make sure that epoxy is completely cured. Once the epoxy is cured, you are completely finished with this. I will say if you do add a lot of epoxy, be mindful that epoxy might drip on the lid. If it does drip, just clean that epoxy up, the cured epoxy, just like as you would a tumbler. So take your X-Acto knife and then just clean up the epoxy like this as I'm doing, just like as I would clean up the inside of a tumbler. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will have a video link posted in my description below for you to check out to how to clean out the inside of your tumbler. Another tip I wanted to mention, be mindful of how much epoxy you're adding on the top. You don't want a pool of epoxy sitting on the top of your topper, and it's going to make your topper look fake or artificial. We all know this is an artificial topper already, but you know, we are trying to make these look as realistic as we can. And here is the fun topper. Now, if you have any other toppers that you might be interested in making that you've seen or you want to try to make and you just don't know how to do it, send me a message on my Facebook account or Instagram account, or you can always leave it in the comments below, and I'll be sure to look into that and try it myself and then teach y'all how to create it. And on that note, thanks so much for watching my channel. If you did like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up for more Tumbler and craft videos. Thanks so much for watching again, and I'll see y'all next time.